Welcome to the Dork Forest. Jackie and her pals will never bore us. Shameless confessions
about our obsession
will make us laugh and smile. So let's explore the Dork Forest and dork out for a while.
Welcome to the Dork Forest. I'm Jackie Cation. I'm going to be your host. And welcome to the first episode of 2017. That's right. So let's do the credits. Mike Rickberg composed and sang that song you just heard, sang it with his wife, Sarah. He will sing again his words to the Mexican hat dance at the end of the program. Patrick Brady's going to fix this audio, and Vilmos fixes JackieCation.com. The websites, just so you know, are JackieCation.com, DorkForest.com, TheDorkForest.com, FamilyPetAncestry.com. They all go to basically two websites. My website, JackieCation.com, and TheDorkForest.com. The Dork Forest is available on all your finer audio thingamabobs like iTunes, and but AllThingsComedy.com has its own feed through SoundCloud that you can get to. And for some reason, last week's episode was misdated. I don't know why. I never do anything with the date, but so be it. Anyway, this episode's going to be great. And it is January, so feel free, again, to donate to the Dork Forest if you like. There's a donation button on DorkForest.com or JackieCation.com, and it's a PayPal donation. You can donate monthly if you like. I have not made that easy for you. You would have to remember, every time you listen to the episodes, to say to yourself, hey, I still like this. Here's another, or whatever. If you don't want to donate, there's other ways to support the show. You can talk up the show. I appreciate that. You can order Ranger of the Dork Forest t-shirts on JackieCation.com. There's regular Dork Forest t-shirts, Ranger of the Dork Forest t-shirts, and there's a stand-up t-shirt called Spooky Reading Girl. And you can get my CDs of my stand-up comedy. You can watch me do stand-up comedy on some videos. There is another way to support the show using the Amazon banner, which there's a tiny little Amazon icon on the front page of JackieCation.com, or you can go to the Support the Show tab, and there is a Amazon banner that you can go. And all of that is it's a portal to Amazon. You order from Amazon like normal. Doesn't cost you extra, but the Dork Forest gets a kickback. So that's the business. If you want stuff, go to the merch store on JackieCation. If you want to support the show, there's a couple of different ways. And on my website also are a chance to see where I'm going to be doing stand-up next. This week I am in Madison, Wisconsin, where I went to college, doing Comedy on State, and I'm pretty psyched about it. So I just recorded the new album. That'll come out in March. How long has this gone on? This seems long enough. I'm sure I've missed something, but let's get into the show. Hey, I'm in the beautiful Marriott Town Suites, as I always am when I play Acme Comedy Company here in Minneapolis, Minnesota. And then I like to do local Dork Forests with some local dork luminaries. And sitting with me, Brandi Brown, friend of the show. Brandi Brown.
Hello.
And
Good to be here again.
It's the Brandi on Twitter.
Yes, Brandi with an I.
With an I. And houseofprocrastination.com is your website.
.org.
And
.net. I own them all. Yeah.
Oh, do you own them all?
I redirect
Just in case, do you think of stand-up as a nonprofit?
Well, I wanted the .org, and then just because I was like, well, I'm not making money blogging, and then I just got them all because I don't want someone stealing my brand. Got to protect that brand.
That seems real proactive for someone with House of Procrastination.
Well, also I have brandybrown.lol, which I haven't used yet because brandybrown.com is a photographer, and I should probably make a comedy webpage at some point.
She is also Brandi with an I?
Mm-hmm, yes.
That makes sense. Brandi with a Y is a food. It's like a drink. It's a thing.
It's also an actress. Brandi Brown with a Y is an actress, and Brandi with an I Brown is Roseanne's daughter. I've learned that.
Oh, really?
Yeah. People tell me that a lot.
Brandi, I'm sure they do. I get a lot of, no, I don't. I used to get a lot of commentary about my name when I was younger.
I also get bothered on Twitter because I'm verified because they will verify anyone now.
So are you newly verified?
I've been verified for a couple months now, maybe a
couple months.
Little under
Well, they're
6
essentially
months.
verifying people just because they need to verify people.
Yeah, I was just like,
Twitter,
well,
you should verify people.
yeah, I'm just like, this is broken if I get it. It's no longer like a status thing. But like, there are a couple of Brandis in reality TV programming, and people just search Brandi.
Yeah.
And then they'll assume I'm that Brandi and just yell at me about Love and Hip Hop Hollywood. I am not that Brandi B.
You are not that Brandi.
I
Have you ever seen Love and Hip Hop?
I watched it once and I was like, this woman is a nightmare. And also, that's why people are like, you should release the sex tape you have. And I'm like, what sex tape? I don't know what you're talking about.
Right. Hopefully no one is filming me doing sex.
Apparently this Brandi had a sex tape from someone else and it was like a blackmail scheme. And I was like, why is everyone mad at me on Twitter? And it was a whole ordeal where I just gave it at one point, or I have another friend on Twitter, Brandi with a Y, whose last name isn't B. And I'm like, that's not me. That's her. Like, I'll just pass it off to another Brandi who's not the Brandi they're looking for.
The only weird thing that happened was back when I had an AOL account. So it's the 12th century. And, my aunt still uses it, so I don't get rid of it. But, my name is misspelled because it was AOL and nobody could have, Jackie, Jackie was taken. And so there's a woman in Boston who has my essentially correctly spelled name at AOL.com. And she will still, to this day, occasionally get an email and forward it to me and go, hey, how's it going, by the way? How's your career? And I was like, really? You're not even checking for real on my career? Well, it's not going well enough then.
My friend Donovan gets emails from this guy who keeps signing up for stuff, and like Donovan tried to stop him, and eventually he's like, took over the guy's Duolingo account. And he's like, well, I'm 5th level German now, and you can't have your password back. I told you 10 times. And it's just,
Yeah. Start figuring some shit out. The internet isn't hard. You can pull that table a little bit closer.
Right.
So yeah, I'm working on, at Acme this week. You're a comic, obviously here in Minneapolis. You'll be opening, you're an Acme comic too,
Yes.
which is great. You're opening for Bent Washburn in January in this month of 2016. So people should come and see you because you're great.
and I'm also a part of Blackout, which is a all black improv group and sketch group.
Mime? Is there any mime going on?
No miming.
Whenever I think of a sketch group or an improv group, I always think, what else are they doing? Are they juggling? Are they building houses?
Well,
Habitat
Blackout
for
like
Humanity?
originally started just improv, and
Okay.
I don't do improv. Like they do a
Improv
thing-
is hard.
It's hard, and I'm actually giving a talk about improv in the workplace and how people need to stop doing that and stop saying like, because it's so hard, that isn't how it works. So I'm giving that at a tech conference May 1st, called Mini WebCon. And the full title of it is Stop Playing. Your team is not an improv group. It's more like managing stand-up comics.
Okay.
So, I've talked to improv people about it. I'm talking to stand-up comics, and I'm kind of just in the research phase. Yeah.
Okay. So you're trying to make it so it doesn't hurt everybody's feelings, or it just hurts everybody.
It hurts. It's hurting the feelings of people in the workplace who are like, we're being creative. I'm like, no, this is hard. It is a skill you need to learn.
Right. Maybe they're just doing trust games.
Yeah.
Maybe that's what it is. Maybe it's a team building sport rather than calling it improv. They could just call it a team building
Well,
game.
yeah, I mean, it's kind of one of those things, but that's never how it works in the workplace. You've got the boss who has what they want. The client isn't going to give you a suggestion like, I want McDonald's, but whatever you give me at the end is fine. Like, no.
Because there's too much politics going on.
Yeah, there's
too many-
politics and like people like run the light constantly in meetings. And, like improv requires a flat hierarchy and I think if it were working,
But
it
you
would
don't
work
feel
like
like you're
stand-up.
discouraging creativity?
Workplaces do that on their own. So I'm just being realistic.
Right. I'm surprised that they're hiring you to tell the truth like that.
Oh, it's a conference and I
okay.
applied. So they're just like, great. This should be
just
good.
free content.
Yeah.
So
well,
it's-
no, they're paying me an honorarium.
there you
yeah,
go.
So it's legit.
Okay. Wow.
Yeah.
All right. And yet there's part of me, like, I don't want to do it. All right, we're going to talk about something else, obviously. We're going to get to your
Yeah.
dorkdoms.
We're going
Don't
to get
think
to my
we
dork.
won't.
Well, this is a dorkdom in its own way.
In its own right. Well, quite honestly, Brandi Brown, your last dork forest was the Supreme Court.
Yes.
And then at like minute 52, we find out that you love Heathcliff the cat.
Yes.
So it's going to be like that again, you guys.
Yeah.
Anyway, because I was telling Andy that we could just 2 hours of this. It would be fine.
It could be like a box set of just my dorkdoms every week. It's a new thing.
And then Andy and I had a conversation about previous guests that would be furious if I let you go 2 hours. Scott Rogers, Mike Schmidt. They'd be like, why didn't I wasn't allowed to talk for 2 hours about wrestling or the Disneyland? And I'm like, I know.
'Cause I have 18 dorkdoms. That's why.
18 and everybody does, but it is very fun. But what I had lunch with a friend of mine named Kevin Willingham, and Kevin Willingham is an artist, a fine artist here in Minneapolis, and he has a new show at the Flanders Gallery up by Bright Lake Bowl.
Okay.
And he does, it's from life, right? He does landscapes and flowers and botanicals. I understand the word is. And they're very beautiful. They're amazing. And I've known him for 20 years, 25 years, and his art has changed so much in the last, just like it ought to, like stand-up changes. And we were talking about how, I was showing him the new album art for my, for my new album. And there's a front image and a back image. And I was like, I'm thinking of changing them and using the back image for the front just cause it's, I don't know. Well, there are many reasons, but it's kind of, it has the color. It's not what I asked her to do. But it's better than what I asked her to do.
Right.
It's because she's an artist and she did her art.
Right.
And Kevin was saying that he hated commission gigs. He wouldn't take them because it's essentially, art is about finding yourself and a commission on art is someone else finding themselves in your art, but they don't want to do the work.
Right.
And I was like, well, that reminds me of when I was hired for corporates and they're like, will you write jokes about how funny our workplace is?
Yeah.
And I'm like, that's because you want me to find, it's funny, but you can't figure out how. So you want someone with that eye to look at it.
Yeah.
But that's so much work because I would have to sort of immerse myself in, and I don't want to do it.
Right.
I
And
just
it's
want to
like-
write the jokes that I write.
That only types of stuff only works if you work in that environment. Like I did one time, I jokingly did like a talent show at my company. It was a tech company, but I worked there so I could make the inside jokes they would get.
Right.
Like
You had
as
both
a comedian.
skill sets.
Yeah. And I think that was an annoying thing. I would get peer reviews at my job and the company would be like, I would work with salespeople and they're like, well, your comedy background isn't showing through. And I'm like, that's because I'm a tech writer. So that's not what's supposed to be happening. And if it did, you don't want that.
You would hate that.
Yeah.
That would be disappointing for all of us.
Yeah. And so it's just like one of those things, like you need to respect this, like it's hard. Improv's hard, stand-up's hard, and whatever your job is supposed to be is
Tech
hard.
writing is hard. I mean, every job has its own, and there's a curve to it, and being good at what you're good at
Yeah.
should be respected, I think.
Yeah. And so bringing improv in the workplace requires you to practice improv constantly. And that's not how companies bring it in. They're like, oh, we learned to trust. The minute you call bullshit on a boss, it's over. Like the scene is over. The light got cut. Like the mic got cut. Like,
Right. It's going to affect the next 6 months of your actual career.
Right.
So you don't think that it actually helps to do improv in the workplace?
I don't.
Or do you think that you don't?
I'm going to talk to, I haven't come up with a complete thesis yet, but I'm interviewing people and I'm going to talk about how like, it's fundamentally not how a workplace is structured. It's how improv works.
Well,
And
now I'm fascinated.
Yeah.
What do you think it should be? How do you
I think it's like managing stand-up because with stand-up, for example, you have like, you look at like an Acme show, you have the MC who's theoretically weaker than the feature, who is weaker than the headliner. And
it
those
builds.
people are allocated the amount of time like relative to their skill level. And so I think in a meeting, you've got a junior developer, for example, who's not, they have great ideas, but they may not be as strong as a senior developer.
Right.
And therefore you need to, a project manager, whoever's running the meeting needs to, give people
allocate time
and let them stretch, like let a junior stretch, for as long as, but also cut them off.
Right. You have to actually manage the time so that they can get to their idea and practice pitching that idea, but also cut them off when they
recognize that they still are junior. I mean, in a lot of workplaces, titles aren't necessarily correlating with how good they are, but I think that's a good framework. And I think that also in meetings, you've got the account executive who's always running their mouth when they don't know what they're talking about. And so how do you stop them?
How do you shut that guy down? You're just like, it's like when a headliner shows up at an open mic or at a book show at the Improv or whatever, and they're like, well, I just need to work in.
Yeah, they just bump people.
And they bump
account
half a dozen
executives
people.
bump people.
Yeah, account executives bump people, and you're
Yeah.
like, hey, nobody wants you to just fucking show up and Andy Dick the world. It's, cause don't do 45 minutes when you said you were going to do 12,
Right.
And, and it's not that the world doesn't want to see Andy Dick either.
Yeah.
I mean, and the account executive might have the chops to fill the time, but it's not allowing the rest of the company to grow in that moment.
And especially,
what a weird analogy.
Yeah, it's a thing where I'm really
fascinating.
excited to interview people because I haven't worked it out and I want to hear people's perspectives, and I'm
Right.
just excited to do the research on this.
Right, because there might be perspectives that we're just kind of just talking out of our ears anyway.
And I was talking to my boyfriend who's a developer, and he brought in
software development.
Yeah.
Okay.
About bands and like, projects when they work and you're bringing in all these different instruments. And then we kind of got into this weird analogy where we're talking about like musical comedy and when it works and like how that's a level, like you have to have a team that's so comfortable with each other to bring in so many different skills. Like, all right, we've got a band and also we got to bring in our comedy and also we got to like do that together. And so, yeah, it's just about like, it's not about comedy in the workplace and making people laugh. I'm literally going to talk about like what like skills actually are and aren't transferable in the workplace realistically.
Right. And it's because the power structure is so different, I think. And because there is a real power structure. Comedy is full of arbitrary power structures that you couldn't diagram it if you wanted to. But a real company has a real structure.
Yes.
So yeah, that sounds actually fascinating.
Yeah. So after I do my research in May and whatnot and put that together, I'm like, maybe I could do an episode about that. I want to share this with the world though.
Right. Well, I think, we will check back in
we'll check
another
back in
time.
May.
It's so the first, we'll do the fun ones first.
Yes.
Okay. The Minnesota State Fair,
Which, by the way, get together. I love it.
it's the best state fair I've ever been to.
Oh, it's the best state fair in the country.
Wisconsin. I've been to the state fair.
It's not a good
It's
state
okay, but it's like Summerfest is really fun.
Yeah, right.
That's where they're putting all of their fun energy. I don't know why they're not putting it in the state fair, but Minnesota State Fair is fucking awesome.
Yeah, I feel like 35 corridor in the United States has all the great state fairs. It's Minnesota, Texas, and Iowa have the best state fairs apparently.
Yeah? Okay.
Texas and Minnesota are kind of rivals in terms of like wacky foods. Like Texas had deep fried beer, and then Iowa
Deep fried beer?
Yeah, they basically like put it in a like pouch and then fried that. And I'm just like, why? Like I don't know. It wasn't that great. It was just like great hot liquid on me.
Yeah, that's all it is. It's beer.
Yeah.
Is it just like, is it a Bud Light?
I don't know. I didn't
I'm
really
really
investigate
hoping
it.
it's like a stout or like
I think it
something
really was
like
just
a
probably
chocolate
like
stout.
Lone
even?
Star probably or something. But
Lone Star?
Yeah.
That's just a lager, isn't it?
yeah, I mean, I really,
terrible
it was
idea.
years ago. I think the only other place that has food that rivals those two is, the Calgary Stampede. In
Canada?
Yeah, they have like, it's kind of, I don't know exactly what it is, but it's kind of like their state fair in a way, but it's insane food. There was like a $100 like hot dog there one year, and
What?
their food there is even crazier. They had like fruit mac and cheese. It was bonkers, but I don't really go necessarily for the food, like the wacky foods. Like I have the mainstays.
Yeah, what are your main things in
okay.
the Minnesota State Fair? I only go for the food.
Yeah,
quite honestly. And I of course want to look at the testicles of a very large pig.
Yes.
So I don't know why.
Yeah, I used to go every year when I was a little kid. My mom she got one of these tethers, and instead of a leash, it would like wrap around my wrist, and it was like a telephone cord kind of thing, so that she could eat with both hands, but also I could feel like I was free, but then, occasionally she could just tug it, so I didn't like have the humiliation of a leash.
but sort of. but the thing is at a state fair, I see why parents put leashes on their kids.
Yeah, because it's like I could get lost. It's so crowded.
Right.
And we used to go with my mom and my grandpa, and then my grandpa got sick, and we just didn't go. And then when I got older, I just started going on my own.
So when did you stop when you were a kid?
Oh, I want to say I was like
10 or
12, and then occasionally I wouldn't go. I would go with friends from high school or something, but I wouldn't. It wasn't like a family outing.
Right. The family outings ended at around 12.
Yeah. So when I get to the state fair, a recent development is my favorite thing to do is going to the 4-H musical. So at the Minnesota
There's
State
a
Fair,
4-H musical?
At the Minnesota State
What do the
Fair,
H's stand for? Do we know?
like helping hands and hearts or something like that.
It isn't harvest or
No, it's
literally good actions.
Yeah, be good.
It's decent,
Yeah.
decent humanity.
Yeah.
kind of thing.
Yeah. So
Is one of
the
H's
4-H,
humanity? Yes.
I think it's like helping hands. I don't know. I didn't do 4-H. I went to private school in the city. So,
Okay.
But the 4-H kids, since they come from all over the state and they're showing animals and they're showing their crafts, they live in a dorm on the campus of the state fair. And a few years ago, because there was like the whole avian flu or like swine flu or something, they had to shut down the dorm because the kids like had swine flu or like some
Like
kids.
somebody got a virus and it was
'cause
weird.
It's all like a farm. Like these kids are playing with farm animals all day.
Right.
Some of them are, and it.
And then they're
just
playing with
spread.
each other.
Yeah.
You put a bunch of, 16-year-olds?
I mean, they're like, they range in ages, I think like 12 to, like 18.
20? Is it 18?
And then they have like the alumni who come and help out and stuff.
Okay.
So they're from all over. Some of them, I assume the ones that live in like the metro area go home, but like, yeah, they live in the dorms and it's
got to be a
bonkers.
huge party.
Yeah.
That's just a pile of kids with who deal with farm animals.
Yeah, and among other things, like robots, like they build they have like they have,
okay.
They have arts, they have crafts, there's like a fashion thing. 4-H is just like every
It's just a
dorkdom.
club. Okay.
It's like a dork forest for kids. You should just go to hang out with 4-H kids and do like a spin-off series.
Yeah. There's so much, every con I've ever been to, I always think to myself, why don't I just get a room?
Yeah.
And just pull people from the corridor
Yeah, like,
and
what's
say,
your deal?
what do you guys think about for hours a day?
So they have a thing called the Arts In, and it's like each county has their like I guess their school, like they put on a little musical. It's like 30 minutes, but then they have the big Arts In, which is all these kids come and they live in the dorms and they practice for like 2 weeks. And then every day, several times a day, they put on a 30-minute musical with a different theme. Like one year it was like these kids woke up in a jungle and didn't know how they got there. And then they just do a medley. Like they sing, "It's a Jungle Out There." They say, "Welcome to the Jungle." And they sing like popular music. And I love it, like unabashedly. Like I'm not making fun of them, but it's awesome because you can grab a beer and watch it. So it's like, hey, what if I could go to a high school play with alcohol and
It's only a half an hour.
It's only a half an hour and they're so earnest and it's like there's really no plot, but it's the best thing ever. I bring friends every year and they're just like, I thought you were kidding and this is amazing.
So what's it called? It's called the 4-H
Arts
musical.
Yeah, it's the Arts In, the 4-H musical. You can look it up on YouTube. They have a llama costume contest. And it is amazing. A 4-H llama costume contest.
What?
And this year, the best one was, there was a girl who dressed up like Hillary Clinton and then the llama was dressed up like Donald Trump. And it had like a little like tie on and he had a little wig and his name was Carl and Carl like didn't really want to be there because he was standing next to another llama that was dressed like a Coca-Cola machine or something. And it had bubbles coming out and like that freaked out the llamas and
What?
yeah, actually it's llamas and alpacas in the costume contest.
Thank God you've
Yes.
corrected it.
Well,
but it's like literally not actual llamas and alpacas. It's actual.
yes,
Wait.
in costumes. Yes.
Wait, they've taken farm animals and dressed them. It's not.
Girl, yes. It is amazing
It's
and
not
there's video.
people in a llama costume.
No.
It is a llama that has been costumed.
Correct.
What the fuck?
There's video of this. Then this, like, she dressed up like Hillary Clinton and on a leash, this teen dressed up her llama or alpaca named Carl like Donald Trump. And then they walk around and they have different classes. And like one time, one was dressed up like a stove. One like was dressed up like Uncle Sam had a hat on. One was dressed up like a dragon.
What?
And, yeah, and there are great
But that's
pictures.
gonna freak the animals out a little bit.
Well, they like make sure that, if one's freaking out,
They're like,
they
"Oh,
move
and
it a little way.
Yeah.
But like, it's the thing that I found, they said one year is that if one llama or alpaca starts pooping or peeing, then that just sets them all off and they want to. And so there's just like a lot of shitting. But they also have a llama obstacle course where like kids like lead their llamas.
Oh, like a dog show?
Yeah. And yeah, and then they have a
Llamas sound the
fashion
most
show.
patient of all animals.
Yeah,
Clearly.
yeah, they're good. Like they're like sheepdogs, apparently. Kind of. That's what a llama lady told me at a different thing.
That they were kind of like sheep.
Yeah, they're good for herding. They
they herd
protect
other llamas?
and they protect. No, they like cattle. They protect cattle from, like other animals trying to get to them.
But aren't they also milk animals? I don't know a lot about llamas. Alpaca seems to be a fur thing.
They have the fur, llama and alpaca fur, but yeah, they're good, like, they're protecting cattle and herding cattle because they're chill, but also they can get mad.
Okay. Right. So if a coyote or a wolf comes by, they'll be like, no.
Yeah,
no.
they'll shoo them away.
Shoo them away.
And then 4-H,
best of luck.
Yeah, 4-H has like a fashion show. They have robots and they have like a science fair thing, and they have cooking and crafts and some like auto.
So you can just join 4-H if you're in high school and do whatever you want to do anyway.
Yeah, they bring in like, they have 4-H at some of the city schools too, but it's like crafts and stuff like that.
Yeah.
They obviously don't do farming, but I mean, it started out, farm kids.
Yeah.
One of my good friends on Twitter, Gabe, is from New Mexico, and he did that. And
all through
he did like
junior and high.
He did like crafts and stuff like that, but he wanted to do the musical, but he didn't get to. And then I think he came out like later. He was like, "Yeah, the gay boy in me really wanted to do the musical."
Exactly, but it never happened.
Yeah. So yeah, like I go to that and like I make sure to see that. And
you make sure to see the musical.
Yeah.
You make sure to see the alpaca fashion show or whatever the hell it is.
Well, this year I didn't go when I couldn't go, but it was streaming online on the 4-H website. And so it was awesome. Like I scheduled my whole day around like getting
right.
home.
I can't get to it, but I can watch it.
I was somewhere, so I pulled over like in a side street so I could just watch it on my phone. And I was like, you guys, like this llama is dressed up.
Right. Your Twitter feed is outstanding, by the way.
Yeah, it's so much random stuff.
It's just awesomely random and it's perfect.
Yeah, today I went on like a whole thing about the McDonald's menu wrap from the 1989, which is a contest.
That.
Yes.
Yeah, because it's McDonald's is the fast food of choice twice a year when I do fast food.
Yeah.
I don't know why.
And then another thing, I mean, I get like the fries, like,
French fries?
Yeah, the French fries at State Fair, that giant bucket of fries.
Like a popcorn bucket of fries?
Yeah, it's pretty big, but it's a fresh fries. They're really just hot, like thick steak fries. They're really good. French fries.
Good work is being done in the fry world at the Minnesota State Fair.
Oh yeah. Yeah, it's my favorite food. You just get a bucket and you walk around with your friends and you eat, for your money and like.
Right. And they're not on sticks. There's nothing weird about them. It's just
good French fries. They used to hire like comedians to work at one of their stands. They have multiple stands. So I think like Amber Preston, who's been on the show.
Yeah.
Pat Sussmelch has worked at it once, but I just
been on the show.
Yeah. And then I like to just kind of, see the seed art. The crop art is another favorite.
Seed art.
Okay. So basically they have, in the agriculture building or the horticulture building, they have seed art, and using seeds and plants that are native in Minnesota,
right?
People make paintings with them. Like they make
tile, like mosaics.
Yeah, like little seeds, and like every year, like you can guess what it's going to be based on like whatever the big thing. I'm like, yeah, there's gonna be 50 Prince ones this year.
All right.
There's always like some like political statement that happens.
Sure. Sickle and hammer. Let's get there.
I saw one that was like a Pikachu, like Donald Trump versus some other like Pokemon that was like
dressed as
Hillary
Bernie
Clinton
Sanders
or something.
Right.
Yeah. So I really want to do that. I'm going to try to enter that, next year.
Oh, to do your own?
Yeah.
So, like, I've been to the Corn Palace in Nebraska. It's okay. A lot of birds, as you can imagine, because it's made out of corn,
right?
And they have to constantly fix it. But it's a beautiful kind of mosaic-y, different colored corn kernels.
Yeah, and they do have different skill sets. There's like some people use really super tiny seeds that they place one by one. Some people do the dumping method, but you can tell like when someone goes one by one. Yeah, my boyfriend got this like drawing kind of machine that I can like take an image and then it'll draw it on the paper. And so you want to draw it on a board. You can't print it out and then put that on the board because the paper will curl. So you want to draw it directly on the board and then
that it's going to be in.
Yeah.
It's sort of like a particle board or a board.
Yeah, you have to use like a particle board.
And essentially it's the image is seared into it and then you
the outline.
Paint by the outline and then you like paint by numbers it.
Yep.
Interesting.
So, I'm kind of looking at small pictures and kind of hopefully I'll maybe enter that.
Sure.
And then in that building you have like honey and stuff. You get the honey sticks and, the various contests that people have with baking and stuff. You can watch that. Wow,
there's whole parts of the state fair I've never
Pat
been to.
Sussmelch worked in the Christmas tree judging. Like there's a whole Christmas tree contest.
In the summer at the Minnesota State Fair?
Yeah, he was in charge of like supervising the trees this year.
I only
he has
know
a
about
bit
the
about
butter
it.
lady.
Oh yeah, the Princess K of the Milky Way. So that's
The
also
princess what? Is she called?
she's called Princess K of the Milky Way.
Okay.
I want to, I don't really want kids, but I want to like raise a child. Like I want to find a black child or a non-white child and raise them in a farm area and like groom them to be the first non-white Princess K of the Milky Way. So basically this is the queen of dairy. You have to like work in dairy. You have to like,
Okay,
like,
you have to come from
know
dairy.
stuff. Yeah,
you have to come from dairy.
Yeah, you have to know about how stuff works. There's like a quiz portion.
Okay.
And then these women, they become like her court and then Princess K of the Milky Way, and everyone in the court and who's Princess K of the Milky Way gets their likeness carved into a block of butter.
A block of butter.
And it's their bust, and like people save these blocks of butters until they get married. Like they keep them in like cold storage.
Right.
And it's a huge
deal. It's a huge deal. It is always in the news.
and you can see them like carve it sometimes. Like you'll see the woman sitting there and you have to be like,
it's like ice sculpture,
or,
but
like,
in butter.
something. Yeah.
And then you have to do it in cold.
Yeah.
Obviously, because it's butter.
Yeah.
But tell me more about, so we're talking people who work in dairy.
Yeah, like you
And so
raised
part of
on a
it,
farm, you know
gotta be-
agriculture.
You gotta know your dairy.
Yep.
You gotta come from dairy. Mm-hmm. And then do you also have to be good looking?
It's not
Is
so much
it-
a beauty thing. It's just like,
It's more of a dairy
like,
thing.
yeah, I mean, they get like dolled up and stuff and they,
Right.
they look like beauty queens, but it's really like technical knowledge and like, your industry.
Okay, you know your industry, but
And
then,
you're of a
but then
certain
professionals are involved with makeup and hair.
Yeah, like, and they're, the funny thing is that if you look at the pictures of the women, they all look like different enough. But then
Okay.
you look at the butter sculpture and you're like, that's the same. My boyfriend, I think my boyfriend or someone thought that it was just the same. Like, why are there 8 sculptures? I'm like, no, that's a different person. See,
Those are
there's a
supposed to be
picture.
different women.
Yeah.
Oh, that's funny. Has a man ever won the butter lady?
No.
It's another
I'm sure,
breakthrough.
Yeah.
Another breakthrough coming.
Yeah. Like
right.
Bernie would have won it though.
Oh, yes, Bernie would have won it.
I just want to be that person.
Biden
Bernie
would have
would've
won it.
Yeah.
But Obama did not say that he would have won it.
Yeah, he would have won the
He
state
would
fair
have won.
butter.
Yes.
And then the politicians at the state fair is another great thing because they have I like to call it the DFL, which are the Democrats in Minnesota. They have a
Right.
lean-to.
They're-
They just have
they're
like a
called
hut. Democratic farmer labor.
farm labor.
Yeah, they have
there
like
we
a
go.
little like where like politicians will drop by, do their campaigning. And
Right.
they'll have little booths, and then throughout it, like individual candidates, like there's an Al Franken booth that looks like a Peanuts thing. You're just like 5 cents for therapy. But my favorite thing to do is go to I call it the GOP shack.
Okay.
And I go there and they have free water, and they're like, "Come on in, we have free water." And then I like to say, why are you giving away water like a bunch of socialists? Every year I do this. And
Every year.
And
Never gets old.
Sometimes
Never
they're cool. Like you can tell the cool ones are like, haha, and the other ones just get very angry. And
Right,
so we
they're
go in
taking
there.
it all a little too seriously.
Yeah, then we go in there and take inappropriate pictures with the Ronald Reagan cutout. My friend Jeremy
Is there
and
a
I
Ronald Reagan cutout?
in the GOP barn.
Is there what was Jesse Ventura?
He was an Independence Party.
He was neither. Yeah.
Yeah. So the Independents, the Libertarians have their own little thing.
They have their shack.
Yeah. All the radio stations are broadcasting.
Sure.
My other favorite thing to do, and this is a secret, and I feel like I shouldn't say this, but I'm going to say this.
I have hundreds of listeners.
Mills Fleet Farm has a little stand, and they give away plastic bags, but like secretly, if you ask them, they have a secret stash of high quality hats. Like really nice, like
Mills Fleet Farm hats?
yeah, like hats,
Like a ball cap?
Yeah, like a ball cap. But they won't give them away unless you ask, and they will only give them away in like 5 at a time. But I know when to go and ask, and so I have them in different colors. And my friends and I all go every year. So I don't know how we stumbled upon the secret. I think one year
You must have seen somebody in front ask.
I think I wanted a Mills Fleet Farm t-shirt. I was like, "Hey, are you guys selling shirts?" And they're like, "No, but come with us." And they have like a chest of hats, and I was like, "Oh shit."
Why? What's the draw of a... I mean, I don't mind a Fleet Farm.
Yeah, I mean,
It's a-
Fleet Farm is insane. It's a ridiculous place with
it's
animal scent. It's
essentially like they have clothing, but they have like hardware
Yeah.
and they have all the things.
It's Walmart for farmers. Like originally,
Yes.
before they had
Before there was
access.
a Walmart.
Yeah.
It was essentially it's a Walmart for farmers.
Yeah, they have hunting goods, they have fishing stuff.
There's no better way to describe, because
You
I
get really good lined jeans there, flannel lined jeans.
I got a nice pair. You know what I like to do sometimes on the road is I like to go to a local fleet farm. You know, if they have fleet farm, which only Wisconsin and Minnesota
Yeah.
I've seen. Though probably the other prairie states probably have it. But I like to go, or Target. Target will do it, or Walmart, and they'll have they'll have all the local teams.
Yeah.
And in Mount Ida, Arkansas, I got the local Mount Ida Lions, which is the high school team.
Mm-hmm.
It was at the Dollar General. I got a $5 t-shirt of the Mount Ida Lions. I like in the world of toddler made t-shirts, a Gildan heavy cotton. That's my favorite.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
No,
I
I know
like
you're
the
talking
ultra cotton. They're fine. But what I'm looking for, because for some reason they hang on me correctly in the world of t-shirts, and they're just the right weight.
Yeah.
But I can't use them for Dork Forest t-shirts or just because they're made, wherever they're made.
Yeah.
And nobody needs, I'll buy them, but I won't.
You
sell
won't.
them.
You won't.
I can't sell them.
contribute
I can't-
actively.
yes. It'll be fine. Anyway, so free hat though.
Yeah, the free hat, which is in the same building
Part
as
of
the
me that
butter
wishes
sculpture.
you had brought.
Oh, I should
Because a
have.
Fleet Farm hat.
It's-
It's just gotta be kind of a sort of a pointy, like a Make America Great kind of hat.
Yeah, it's
right?
just a simple tan ball cap or a black one that says Fleet Farm on it, and it's
But
just
is
like a really.
is it kind of carved, or is it loose? It's more foldy, or is it
No, it's just like
more
a regular
structured?
baseball cap. It's really durable baseball cap. I wear it when I go fly fishing with my boyfriend. It's a
Yeah,
really
you were
nice
trying to
hat.
get him to do a Dork Forest
Yeah,
as well
and
about
he's
fly
sick.
fishing.
Yeah.
What is he a comic too?
Nope.
Well, let's look forward to him. Let's say his name.
His name is Stu Anderson, and
Stu Anderson.
he's going to be actually releasing a fly fishing app he made soon. So
Sure. So
we'll talk
is
about
he
it
a
later.
programmer as well? Or?
Yep, he's a software developer and he loves
All right.
maps.
Nice.
What else do I do at the state fair? He always goes to the DNR building actually because he loves fish, and we just leave him there, and then
Okay.
he like talks to them about maps and stuff.
Department
he's like,
of Natural
He's just like,
Resources.
you can leave me here, and like it's like dropping him off at church, and then I just wander around. And I wandered around with my friend Donovan one year, and Donovan is that friend. Donovan is a white guy, and this will be very relevant to the story in a minute. But like, he's that friend who is hilarious, and you're just like, you should do this as a joke. And he's like, okay. And then you're like, oh
like
no.
totally willing?
Yeah. And so we went to the international, bazaar because we
Yes.
wanted to get they have like falafels there and all sorts of stuff. And we were standing in line behind this guy, and I realized that he had a Nazi shirt on. And I was like, oh.
Like a full on?
Like it wasn't obvious, but you knew enough stuff. It had like the lightning bolt. I'm like, oh. And so I was like, Donovan, is that? And he's like, yup. And he's like, I'm going to say something. I go, and I'm going to go over there to the Jamaican stand. And so like I quickly walk away.
Yes.
I'm like, I'm not trying to die at the state fair. And Donovan walks up to this Nazi who at this time had gone from the falafel stand to the stereotypical German stand. And he was standing there, and Donovan puts his hand on the shoulder and goes, hey. And the guy turned around and goes, Hail Hydra. And then he just walked away. And I was like, well, thank you for at least letting me get out of there.
Yeah.
It could have ended poorly.
So Donovan, white guy. That's why.
Yeah.
That's why.
Yeah, 'cause, like-
less confrontational.
but still,
or
it's like, oh my God, Donovan, you could have gotten punched. Or like
Right.
the guy was confused. I don't
is
know what
Donovan
happened.
a large man?
No.
No, just
He's crazy. He's just
he's
yeah.
just willing. He's
Yeah.
just willing to get. And the thing is I pictured something else. I have to say, I did not picture Hail Hydra.
Yeah.
Because that is almost encouraging.
Yeah, he was just,
And,
he's just like, Donovan is one of those like high level trolls. Like he would troll the Donald Trump. He would troll the Donald Trump page and like say insane stuff to the point that we were like, okay, you gotta stop because they actually believe this. It's no longer
Right.
like abstract, like stop.
Yeah.
But like, what else would we do? Oh, in the International Bazaar, I also like to stop by the white people dashiki stand. There is a stand that sells dashikis run by like white people that I'm convinced they supply all the white people in dashikis I see because every time I'm at the state fair.
It's like a giant scarf that you wear as a dress, right?
It's basically
What is-
like a dashiki is like kind of like it's like African, like a muumuu kind
Yeah.
of situation.
Okay.
It's like
It always makes me think,
t-shirt.
oh, that
kind of-
should have been a
short
scarf.
Yeah,
Okay.
no, it's like a shirt
And pants?
Um,
Or is it a full muumuu kind
it's not full muumuu. It's like you can wear longer ones, but like
Okay.
a lot of people, the short ones are kind
The
of
shorter
popular.
ones go down to like your thighs? or
Yeah,
something?
maybe your thigh
Okay.
or something. They're kind of like bigger, like a lot of like, you know.
And they're bright.
Yeah, they're
Brightly
very
colored.
beautiful. But the place is called Inside Africa, but they were selling Jamaican flags, and that was really like bothering me. And I was just like, so there's a picture of me
that's outside
standing there. I'm like,
Africa.
that's not inside. What are you doing? White people dashiki shop. And every time I go to the state fair, I see white people in dashikis. They're very comfortable. Like,
Sure. And who
it's
doesn't
just-
like a brightly colored sarangi muumuu thing?
yeah. So
Where does the word muumuu come from, I wonder?
don't know. I just like
I feel like
Polynesian or something. I don't know.
I don't know if it's a real. Is that a real word? Or is
I'm
it
sure
sort
it
of
is.
like-
Yeah.
Okay.
But so in the International Bazaar, they have also that's where a lot of the foods are like
Have you been to that new Sears? Like you know where the old Sears used to be in Chicago?
Yeah, that place, Midtown Market.
Yeah.
They're in the International Bazaar at the State Fair, so they
Okay.
have like a few of those places. But I love Midtown Market.
Midtown Market here in Minneapolis, if you ever get a chance.
Yeah, all
they have
sorts
all
of
the foods.
all
all the foods you've ever wanted.
yeah.
In an old Sears.
Yeah, I
And-
get taffy for my grandma and my mom.
Good work is being done with
yeah,
taffy in,
I-
in the
yeah, the
Midtown Market.
saltwater taffy is just like a tradition.
And it's right by Hugo's. So you
yeah,
gotta love Hugo's.
they have like a couple of saltwater taffy stands. But the important thing at the State Fair is to know there are a lot of like knockoffs of popular things. Like,
Yeah.
like you want to get like this one taffy, but like there's another taffy stand,
That
and then
looks
you have
like it?
kind of like it, but like you've got like the sky ride thing
Yeah.
at the State Fair, but then you've got like the cheap gondolas also, like that look like kind of rickety ski things.
Yeah.
And yeah, so you gotta like there are
There's-
different levels of like, oh, this is the authentic thing. This is the kind of like knockoff
Right.
version
the
of
new
it.
version that
Yeah.
they saw that was popular.
Yeah.
So if you've been going for 20 years,
I think they've
You have
both
a
been there a
sense.
long time, but like
Okay.
there's just like one
one's
of them.
better than the other.
Yeah, one's
That'll
like
happen.
the dive bar of like rides at the State Fair. You've got the giant slide.
Is there a giant slide?
Oh, there's
like,
a
it's like
giant
a potato sack
yeah,
slide?
and
Okay.
it's like I haven't gone on that in a few years, but occasionally my friends will. And
Mm-hmm.
then you have the grandstand, which is like so you have the grandstand, which is like an outdoor amphitheater, and like people
right.
perform.
Tractor pulls.
Yeah, all sorts of like Bob Dylan did that, Garrison Keillor. I saw Patti LaBelle there.
Okay. So it's a real. I'm thinking of a county fair that I went to in the middle of Wisconsin that had an actual tractor pull.
Yeah, they have those during the year too, in that
Right.
in that
It's-
thing.
it's
But
a
like
space.
like they have free concerts, at the State Fair. But then you want to pay, like they'll have like Taylor Swift perform, so you pay to get into the State Fair,
Yeah.
and then you pay additionally if you want to go to this grandstand.
How much does it cost to get into the state fair?
It's like $12.
Okay,
yeah, it's
that's
not
not
too bad. And then
Does that include parking? It can't.
no,
possibly
but I
include
take
parking.
the city bus. Actually, they have a lot of park and rides, so
Yeah.
I pay like $5, and it's only $5 one way, and then it's free to come home on the
on the
city-
shuttle?
Yeah, on
Okay.
the shuttle. You don't have to prove it. It's just like getting there. 'Cause,
Yeah.
like, so it's a really good deal. But underneath the grandstand is a fun thing. They have just like all sorts of weird stands, like selling stuff, or Planned
like a
Parenthood is
market?
there. Yeah. Planned Parenthood is there. You've got like the pro-life people there too. You've got a weird computer dating thing still in 2016 where it's just like it's always been there.
Hey, downtown Minneapolis sex world is gone.
Well, no, they just made it smaller.
Right.
Yeah,
Because
there's-
of the internet, and they don't need the, but
They don't need the space. Yeah.
right, and they probably own that building and real estate downtown.
Yeah. They
here
sold
is-
it off probably.
Yeah, I can't imagine why they wouldn't. Wow.
Also they
but
sell-
underneath the grandstands, it's weirdly a political and dating.
No,
and-
it's just like all sorts of goods. Like there is a place that sells barrel saunas. Like they're giant barrels. And then it's a sauna inside. So you can like put it in your yard and like go like,
oh, weird.
yeah, this is all on my site, Minnesota State Fair cliches, where I've taken pictures of these weird things that always happen at the State Fair.
But only happen at the
Yeah.
state fair to some extent.
Also,
so-
there are places that just sell cars because a lot of people do come down. Farmers come down to do business. So you've got a whole thing where they're selling like tractors, and you can like check out your tractors, check out your
there's
construction
real-
equipment. Yeah.
There's
buy
real farm
houses.
stuff going on. Real state fairy.
Yeah, it's crazy because it's this whole like all the companies are there, like Direct TV or like you want cable, like giving away bags and stuff, giving away yardsticks.
Yeah.
Those are very popular.
Oh, yardsticks.
Yeah, they just give out yardsticks at various
Last
things.
time you needed a yardstick? Andy has one. He's pretty proud of it.
Yeah, I think my mom uses them a lot 'cause she does sewing. But
Oh, that'll do it.
yeah, but like it's such a weird like mix of all sorts of people too, because you've got like all these outstate Minnesota people, you've got like city people, you've got like different races, different languages.
Because everybody goes.
Everybody goes.
I think that's what I love. The state fair in Wisconsin, it seemed like the same 100 people.
Yeah.
And it seemed a lot less, there was a lot less like different kinds of people and a lot less different kinds of stuff to see.
Yeah.
The Minnesota State Fair is kind of exceptional in that. By the way, I'm talking to Brandi Brown, and it's the Brandi on Twitter and houseofprocrastination.com and State Farm Cliches.
State Fair Cliches.
Damn it. State Farm, that's an insurance company. They're there for you, though.
Yes.
I don't know if you know that about State Farm.
Yes.
Statefaircliches.wordpress.com. And you're going to open for Bent Washburn at Acme, and you work at Acme relatively often. So hooray. Okay. So,
one quick thing. My favorite thing I've ever seen at the state fair is I saw a kid arrested for underage drinking while wearing cow print shorts. And I was like, this feels the most right. This is how this night is going to end. And then every night there's a fireworks display at like 10
right.
and everyone goes home.
yeah.
Yeah.
So, and it's open from what, 10 a.m. to midnight?
6 a.m.
6 a.m.
And some people actually live on the grounds, like they bring their trailers down, and it's like like a campsite kind of, because they're bringing their horses and whatnot down. There's so much. I have friends
How about the weirdest food? I mean, because you mentioned it, but then you didn't really itemize.
I mean, I've
'Cause they
eaten
put everyone is doing Twinkies on fried Twinkies and Oreos and on sticks and fried. And,
I mean, it's just like, here it's not even that. It's like, oh, camel, and it's not that exciting. It's like, oh, this is kind of bland, or
actual different weird meats.
yeah, or sometimes there's alligator or something like that, and then sometimes they'll do different crazy flavored beer like mini donut beer, which is just a stout with like sugar and cinnamon around the
Maybe
rim,
sprinkles?
like with like a mini donut in it, and I'm like, this isn't. I don't know. I have the mainstays, the cheese curds, the fries, and whatnot.
Just regular cheese curds or fried cheese curds?
Fried cheese curds.
Yeah.
And then
I like regular better than
they have
fried.
all you can drink milk, which I'm lactose intolerant, but it used to be $1, but like $2, you just get a cup, and you can, as long as you're standing there, you can just keep getting all kinds of milk. Chocolate milk, regular milk.
Strawberry milk?
Yeah.
2% whole?
Yeah, it's all kinds of milk. And then that's across from the Miracle of Birth barn, where you can just watch baby animals come into
they
the
got a
world.
baby animal barn?
Yeah, just Miracle of Birth. You can see piglets and like cows being
Chicks?
born, and yeah.
All right.
So yeah, state fair. I mean, I didn't even cover like.
How about horses?
10th. Oh yeah, there's horses. There's a horse show.
I'm a big fan of horses.
I saw one time I walked down into the horsing. They're in the same barn as the alpacas and the llamas.
Okay.
And there was this woman sitting there, and it was like, meet celebrities. I was like, what celebrities? And it was these two horses named Duke and Prince. And I was like, who are these horses? Like, it was so weird because they're just
this is
standing
John
there.
Wayne.
And they're just like two famous horses from the Minnesota Zoo. They're not even
weird.
like- I'm just like, which one is Duke? Like, it was a thing where I'm just like, okay.
All right.
Nobody's coming here just to see Duke and Prince.
And well, do they have a midway?
Yeah, they have carnivals and stuff
Yeah.
like that. And like, I haven't really, there's nothing really exciting there.
Right. I like to take my life into my own hands and go on a tilt-a-whirl. I like
Actually-
a tilt-a-whirl a fair amount.
Actually, a few years ago, and I looked this up, I feel like it was like 92 or something, or maybe even earlier, State Fair ride got stuck. And it was like,
Sure.
it was the Enterprise, and it kept spinning for like 25 minutes, and they, people were very sick afterwards. And it was I saw a newspaper clipping. I'll have to find that and dig that up.
That is hilarious.
yeah.
You realize we've been talking for 45 minutes. Only about the state fair.
Yes, and other
any
things.
final words about the state fair? Or we could just talk for the rest of this about the state fair.
No, cause I want to talk about, the other thing.
Right. Which do you want to talk about? Do you want to talk about Wiki
Let's talk about the DNC and the
or
DFL.
the Electoral College
yeah.
working at political conventions?
Yeah.
Because that was huge this year for you.
Yeah. So this was the first year I decided to actually
Get involved.
right? Because I hate caucuses. Minnesota is a caucus state. And instead of a primary, instead of just going and voting on who you want to, to get the nomination,
Right.
you have to actually physically show up between a certain time and register and write on a slip of paper, hey, I want, this
Joe
person.
Blow.
Yeah. Which for presidential races is annoying. And also we don't have absentee for that. So it's really, if you work, you can't caucus. If you are unable to get yourself there, you can't caucus.
Right.
And so my mom had fallen and broken her femur. And if I had gone and gotten her, like we could caucus together, but like my grandma couldn't caucus because my whole family lives in different areas.
Right.
And so I was like, caucuses are stupid. They aren't representative because who can get here. And also
it's super specific and not inclusive.
Yeah. And also like in the suburbs, they had them at high schools, and this was a very popular caucus year for both parties. Mm-hmm. Some people couldn't even park at their site because there was no parking. They're just like, I'm going to go home.
Yeah.
And so we wanted to get rid of caucuses, and that was like my big thing. So to get your resolution read, you have to show up at, the basic caucus that we had in February. And a bunch of my friends and I were like, ban caucuses, like no more of these.
Yeah.
For like lower levels, for like state senators, caucuses
are fine.
They're fine. They're also party meetings. We're just saying separate that from the presidential race. We could still have Democratic business held with, Democratic Party business, but like caucuses should just
on a national level are just
you should just have an absentty ballot
and primaries, and
Yeah.
old people should be able to get involved.
yeah accessibility, you know, all that stuff. So I went to that, and I read the resolution aloud, and everyone's like, great, well, we vote yes on that. And like people were reading stuff like we should protect honeybees and like all sorts of resolutions.
Right. Anything you like.
Sunday alcohol sales. So I went to the Senate district, the state Senate district convention, which is like the next level. And I was a delegate for that. And that's where we like nominate our state senators and our state representatives for our area.
Right.
And based on that, I was just like, it was crazy because once we did all that, and once we did like the state party business, then we had to do sub-caucusing to like determine who would go to the state convention to deal with like Bernie and Hillary stuff. So you've got an auditorium of adults just like, come to our group. We're like the pro-pot Barney's or like Bernie supporters, or you've got the social justice, the economics, and you're basically just like bartering with people to like
For bodies?
to get your sub-caucus. Yeah, like,
Yeah.
It's crazy. I can't even like describe it. It's a lot of running around and shouting. So at this point, I decide, well, I preferred Clinton. Like, I would have voted either one, but I was never like, I'm with it. Like, I just preferred Clinton for like a lot of reasons we don't need to get into.
Right. They're political reasons.
Yes. And like strategic reasons and stuff like that. And so I was like, well, I'm going to be like a Clinton. I might as well just see this through and like see if my band caucuses thing can get to the state convention.
Yep.
Another fun thing that happened at this is I was originally sub-caucusing with the independent, like we weren't backing a candidate, but like police justice reform group.
Right.
So that's in this group were mainly like black women and like a few like white women. And then from like the pot group tried to like get us to join their group, because if you get enough people in your sub-caucus, then you get a delegate. Like you get to send a delegate to the state convention.
So they were trying to join with another group.
Yeah, so they're telling the black people in these police reform they're like, well, like black people are often like arrested more than white people for drugs. And we're like, we know. Like
if you could just explain that a little more detail.
Yeah, like they were just basically, we know, we just don't, like pot is not our priority right now.
Pot's not my issue.
Yeah.
And you know what? You want pot? Turns out you can get pot.
Yeah, and so at that point, like some like, people will always talk about like Bernie people and Clinton people, but like these pot people were like the Bernie people were cool and like the Clinton people got them away from us.
Yes.
But like, yeah, these pot people were like laser focused, which
is so weird
for pot. Yeah.
Pot should make you
you've got that medicinal stuff that is very strong,
Super strong.
Yeah.
Best minds of our generation.
Yeah.
Are working on making pot stronger and stronger.
So I went to the state convention, and that's what I live tweeted, and that you were just like, what is going on here?
Oh man, it was amazing.
It was an orchestra hall, and you need to know I'm a huge political wonk, so I'm just like, the process is, crazy. So they seat you by your Senate district, and I'm in CD5, which is Keith Ellison's, which is Minneapolis, the biggest one. I was like 3 rows from the front. And they seat you by like your, like very, like your sub
There's
district.
a plan?
Basically. Yeah. So you're with like your.
It's geographic and then geographic?
Yeah, it's like numbers and geographic. So you sit with your the Senate district you came with.
Yeah.
And then you have like a little like name thing, and then above us they have alternates, so that if you leave the floor, like someone else is like eligible to come down and vote. But you have to give them your badge.
Lanyard thing?
Yeah.
Okay.
So, this is just like a lot of like rah-rah, like the governor talks, or like, people who are running for Senate. Al Franken gave a really funny speech.
Sure.
But
You love stage time.
But it was so like weird, because anytime anyone who supported Clinton came out, the Bernie people would lose their shit and be like, boo, boo.
Wow.
And then even Bernie people, like some Bernie people were like, just let them talk. Like, we're all on the same page here.
Yeah.
And that kind of stuff wasn't as interesting to me as like the weird political drama that wasn't even that serious.
Yeah.
Like at one point there was a whole argument about whether a guy could be seated to be a delegate. Mind you, this is just the state convention. It's not that big of a deal. Because apparently there was some weird like triangle with like somebody's wife and like just this whole thing.
Oh, like some personal
Yeah,
issue?
some personal shit happened. So we're all voting on this and everyone's like, why is this coming to the floor now? He's just an alternate. And like,
Right.
I still don't know what happened. Someone passed a resolution that was a sense of the body, which means it doesn't matter, but about getting rid of super delegates, which I don't think we should do. So I ended up speaking against this. I'm like running to the front of the audience at Orchestra Hall, and on a giant screen, I have this picture of me, and it's like, I'm just like irritated because I'm like, I'm Brandi Brown. I'm against the resolution. I was like, super delegates don't matter till Donald Trump runs as a Democrat. And there's a video of it. And,
so that's neat.
yeah.
And
it was just like a lot of like procedural stuff, but then people were just so like, I don't know, like obviously it's important and serious, but people were so like annoyingly like pedantic about things.
I hate meetings with the power of the sun, man, because I don't like Robert's rules.
Yeah.
I understand what they're for. I just don't like, because people do tend to weed off and want to hold forth. Andy goes to these local, sort of, neighborhood watch meetings that we have. And he said, you know who could get all of the votes forever would be someone who could guarantee that you could park right in front of your house.
Yeah.
That person could win all elections if they could guarantee that. And I was like, well, then that's dumb.
No, that's how like Rob Ford stayed in power in Toronto. As a city council person, he was really effective with like people would call him and be like, I have a problem with my landlord, or I have a problem with, but like big picture mayor stuff he was not good at.
Right,
but, like,
but
logistics,
individuals.
like he would get those potholes fixed. But like there's so much Robert's rules. And at one point I'm like talking to my friend Donovan, who I mentioned earlier, and my other friend Melissa, and they were both delegates. So we're like tweeting in like a private group or something to each other, and we decided to form a snack caucus because I'm like, I'm really hungry, guys, let's go find snacks.
Okay.
So we like decided to leave the floor because nothing was really happening, and we went to Chipotle and like somehow ended up with free Chipotle, so that was great. So we're like, snack caucus is a successful caucus today. Then we get back and like people are still arguing because you have to vote by holding up your lanyard.
Yeah.
And then like people are making motions on motions on motions to where like people think they're voting on one thing and they're not voting on this.
Right.
And so I start tweeting a fake sitcom I made up called Delegates, and it's just literally like a show about delegates.
Yeah.
And it has like scenarios like party star, like somebody with a latex like allergy has to decide, do they want to be in charge of the balloon drop or do they want to die? Like it's just like stuff like that. Like delegates, like through a series of games and questions, delegates try to decide what they're voting on. And
right. So the whole thing seems so enormously irritating. I don't understand. What did you love about it?
It was just like, this is why shit is like it is. It's important to see the process and see like, people are like, well, why don't you just do this? And then you were like, this
because
is what
no
happens.
one will just do that.
Yeah.
Everyone wants to talk around it for a million years, and thus nothing gets done.
Yeah. And about super delegates, like people are like, oh, like a lot of it is like, like party politicians and stuff like that.
It's delegates, and then you move up to this level and that level. And like super delegates, explain what super delegates are.
Okay, so super delegates are basically like, they're at-large delegates. So at the national convention, there was a lot of stuff about like Bernie got this many thousands of delegates proportional to like how many votes he won, and Clinton got this. And then you have like 500, some 100 number of super delegates. And these people can just vote however they want. And super delegates consist of, they're called at-large, like your senators, your representatives, like national senators, like, Obama's a superdelegate, Biden's a superdelegate. And then certain powerful party people.
Okay. So people who have come up in the party and then actual elected officials are made into superdelegates.
And those people
Is there a list of superdelegates somewhere?
Yeah, it's on Wikipedia. My friend actually maintains that page for some reason.
Oh, interesting. But there isn't an actual .gov?
Yeah. Within the party, there's a list. Like, you can easily get it. It's public information.
Okay.
But the thing is, with national delegates in general, like, I could run to be a national delegate, but it's very expensive to be there because you have to stay in a certain hotel because that's how they get you through security. Like, you have to get on the bus at your state's hotel.
That feels super democratic.
Yeah, well, because
it feels like real populist.
Yeah, well, but you have to because that's the only way they can clear thousands of people through security because they have to lock down that building.
But you said there were only hundreds of superdelegates.
Oh, I'm talking about like the national delegates,
Okay.
like the regular old delegates, like the ones that like that are based on how many votes you got.
Okay.
So that could be anyone who runs like at the convention, like me. I could have done it.
Okay.
I could have tried. The thing about superdelegates is that superdelegates were created as kind of like a stopgap. Like if like Trump ran and it was really close, like the superdelegates could maybe like get him out of there.
Right. That was the hope.
Yeah. But they won't ever really do anything because if like a few superdelegates actually went with, Sanders, or like my district voted for Sanders, I'm going to vote for Sanders too as a superdelegate. But they're never going to like do anything crazy because it's their political asses on the line.
Right. Because they're actually building a career, and so they can't actually risk it.
Yeah, but the other thing about superdelegates too is that,
and we're back to office politics, you guys.
If those superdelegates didn't exist, all those powerful party people and elected officials would just run as regular delegates, like everyday people could be. Mm-hmm. And take all the spots. So it kind of like gives more people a chance to be delegates. I just don't think they matter until they do. But like,
it's just a stepping stone in the party. So they don't, they have power that they could use or abuse as they want, but they get into these positions as superdelegates by working through the systems that are already in existing.
And also these meetings suck. Being in like local politics is hard. Like everyone focuses on the glamour of national politics, but like it's messy. It's hard. And like you want like to reward party loyalty. But also for the regular delegates, they have elections too. So you have to like vote. People walk around campaigning. They're like, I want to be a Sanders delegate. And since I got to the convention as a Clinton, delegate, just the state convention, I could only vote for who the Clinton people would send nationally. So everyone gets up and they give a little speech. They divide you up. Are you a Sanders delegate or a Clinton delegate? And everyone gives a little speech on like why they deserve. And they try to like diversify it. Like the DNC actually has targeted diversity numbers. It's not mandatory, but they're like, we ideally want to send this many like gay people and lesbians and like this many trans people, this many, they say that. And it doesn't have to be hard and fast, but they have said this.
Right.
Which gets into a fun game of everyone trying to say how they're diverse.
Right.
So someone would get up and this white guy's like, I have a gay uncle in the Navy. Like that is a thing he said. He has 3 black friends. Everyone's like, no, dude, come on.
Right. You're still a straight white guy.
Yeah. And
your main purpose here is to clean out your attic so you can hide people.
Yeah. And then there's gender balancing, which gets really tricky because in Minnesota,
so the Republicans are doing this as well.
Yeah, well, I don't know how theirs work, but they're similar.
Unlikely.
Yeah, like
they're like, we need to find a black person.
Yeah, basically,
could anybody
like,
find a gay person who happens to be
like,
Republican?
We need someone for HUD. But in Minnesota, just to make sure that it's not dominated by one gender, it just says like no one gender like should like make up a majority. So if someone who identifies as man gets a position, and the next thing has to be someone who's not identifying as a man. You can be a woman, you can identify as like genderqueer, whatever. That means like any gender is good to go. They balance it out like that. That's cool. But at the national level, they're still on like a real like binary thing. So they're just like gender balancing is like man or woman.
Right. It's not identity.
Yeah. So if people who don't identify, so it became this whole thing when we had to balance out national delegates where like the Minnesota parliamentarian had to be explained to like people who are just like, I don't identify as man or woman. Like, look, I don't want to be saying this, but Minnesota is a hair ahead of the national
Right.
platform, so you have to pick whichever one. Like, we don't want to stop you, but like, you have to determine, are you going to run as a man or a woman?
Okay.
And it's like a really shitty thing to make someone who, you know, like genderqueer, like, I'm like, I don't identify as either of those. And they would just have to pick. And they're like, if you want to run as a woman, go ahead. Just like strategically figure out which one will get you, whichever you want to do.
Right. You just pick
Yeah.
the lane that you think might get you the
Yeah.
gig, which makes you compromise in your personal life,
Yeah.
which makes you compromise in your political life,
Yeah.
which creates its own set of problems if
Yeah.
we're trying to run a fair, idealistic government.
So that's one thing I want to change. And that tells you, like, everyone was just like, Bernie could have won. Like, I don't know. There are a lot of factors, but people need to realize that, like, Minnesota, just that one small thing that we recognize that, like, it's not binary. Gender is not binary. It's ahead of the national
Right.
platform. And maybe they just didn't consider it. No one's really arguing against doing that. But
Right.
like,
And everybody has different issues, you know? I mean, the
Yeah.
thing is everybody is scared about Trump. And if you are a feminist, that's your main concern.
Mm-hmm.
If you have gender fluidity, that's your main concern. If you are a handicapped person, you don't want to be mocked openly on national
Yeah.
television.
Yeah.
If you have developmentally disabled children, you don't want them to be incarcerated and
Yeah.
thrown away because they're not of
Yeah.
use to society.
And one thing I realized, even being within Minneapolis versus like, there is like Senate District 7, I think, has the one Democrat who always votes to defund Planned Parenthood. Like, the
That's his-
Democratic Party is not as liberal as people think it is, because we're very, like,
Because people are people.
Yeah.
Like people are always like, well, what about the women who didn't vote for Hillary? And I'm like, they're people.
Yeah.
First, they're not just women. They
Yeah.
have other issues. And Hillary Clinton is anti-choice and I mean, there are people who are anti-choice and Hillary Clinton is pro-choice. And that's their main issue, you know?
Yeah.
One of my main issues is the Muslim Registration Act.
Yeah.
I don't want any part of it.
Yeah.
I'm not particularly religious. I identify as a religious person, but it's not my topic, right?
Yeah.
And so my thing is, yeah, I don't want Mike Pence trying to pass legislation that says that if I have another miscarriage, I have to have a funeral for it. But, so feminism is an issue for me, but I think religious freedom it's at such a basic level. That's my thing, right?
Yeah.
But everybody has something, you know, police brutality, clearly an issue as a black woman, right?
Yeah, it's really, I think the thing that I learned or realized is just like, and I've served on I was on the county library board, is that politics are so messy. Like, people need to do it. And like, I don't know if I'm going to run it to be a delegate again, but it's a thing that, like, I'm glad I did it. And I think it's important for people to know how the system works
And how messy it is.
And how messy it is. And like, yeah, there are people within the party who talk down to people, but they're also doing this stuff for free. That's the other crazy stuff. Like, people fly to national,
It's
sit on
such an investment of time
for
and money.
free. You
yeah.
can't write that off. Like, I mean, I could maybe like pick up some gigs and write it off, but like,
Right.
you can't write off political work.
Activism.
Yeah, and that kind of
Interesting.
stuff. And like, people, you have to pay your own way to go to national meetings if you want. You know, or you can fundraise to like people to support you, but it's just like really, like, it was
It's
interesting.
something I you know, obviously I've never thought about. You
Yeah.
know?
And so there's a barrier to that because of the scale. But I think there's, you know, one thing, there were a lot of people who came, like the Sanders delegates, like they had rules, like in terms of 2 hours before we vote on delegates, you need to have your nomination in, which means you had like 6 hours plus all the days before the convention.
Yeah.
And a bunch of Sanders delegates were like, no, screw this. Get rid of all the rules. Anyone who wants to run can run when we're doing sub-caucusing, which stretched it out to 2 to 3 hours.
Yeah.
And the rules were there for a reason, because we had an agenda to get through.
Right.
And at that point, we didn't get to vote on
but they-
electors.
Oh, Jesus. And
yeah.
right. And it's that whole thing where you're so mad at some of the problems in the existing system, which are real, that you want to burn the whole thing fucking down.
Yeah.
And you're like, well, we have to salvage what we can because of anarchy.
Yeah. There were just a lot of people. There were some people that like like the Sanders delegates, like Bernie Sanders and his people proposed a slate of delegates, and they were like, no, we're not voting on a slate, which I agree, because the Clinton people tried to do the same thing too.
Right.
There were some things that they were like, let's vote against this, but they were just like other things. You're like, no, you had all the time. That's not, do you know why we're doing this? And so that was
the slate they were trying to like put stuff in, like
these are some delegates that we think you should all vote on. So let's all just quickly vote on these people. And everyone's like, no, we don't. How did you pick these people? Like,
right. We need to have some individual.
Let people give their speeches and let's see the candidates. And I know we're out of time, but like one last thing I really want to address is electors.
Yeah.
So the people who actually cast, like, the whole.
Because it's a caucus?
Yeah, the electoral college people, like how we vote on those people.
Level. Yeah.
So at the second convention or the third convention I went to, before you get to the state, so your Senate district, like the one that Keith Ellison represents, MN5, you vote on delegates to send to the national convention. Some of them are elected there, and you vote on the elector for your district. And the elector is a person who reports to the electoral college. It's traditionally, I learned after I vote, like a thing given to someone who works in the party a lot.
Yeah.
But
it's a reward.
It's a reward because in Minnesota, it's like you have to vote the way the state voted. And if you try to be a, like
kind of rebel,
like a rebel, you're
out of the
removed.
Party. Yeah.
You're actually removed from, like they did this year, one person did, and they get your alternate to vote. So, I didn't really realize this, and I saw like this older white guy and this young black guy, and I was like, oh, well, new blood in the party. They both kind of gave their little speeches. Mind you, I didn't know anything about these people except like their 1-minute speeches each.
Wow.
So I was just like texting with my friend. I was like, I'm just going to vote for the young guy. I didn't really like think. And then he turned out to be the one who was like the faithless elector who tried to vote for Bernie Sanders in, this year in this electoral college in Minnesota.
Huh.
And so they removed him, and the guy that I should have voted for, he didn't even get to be the alternate because they had to gender balance it again. So the woman alternate got to be put on the electoral college for that. So
essentially whoever the elector for each district, Senate district, goes then to the nationals and talks to the elector for the state of Minnesota?
No. So what happens? Okay. So yeah, cause I'm like talking fast. I'm being kind of messy. There are two levels. The congressional district, so the House of Representative districts, they pick one elector. So we've got our 8 electors
from all
Minnesota.
the people.
Yeah.
For the House of Representatives, there's one elector. Okay.
Yeah. We vote like at the DFL. And the
Senate?
And the GOP. So you've got 2 more electors, right? So the GOP is also doing this at their convention. At the state convention that I went to, the last convention before the national convention, they're supposed to be voting, if there's time, on 2 more electors. And that's where the entire DFL votes on 2 more spots for people.
So 3 spots. But there's only going to be 1 elector for Minnesota, right?
No. There are 10 electors because the electoral college votes. So the electoral college is the number of representatives you have in the House plus your 2 senators. So Minnesota has 10.
Right. 8 and 2.
Yeah.
Got it.
So the two representing the Senate, since Senate is statewide, the whole body would vote on who those electors could be. But because the Bernie Sanders people threw out all the rules, and by the time they were done with their voting, like the Clinton people were done by like 5:30. The Bernie's people were done like 7:30, 8 o'clock. Quorum was done. People had to go home, go get their kids, feed their dogs. So the central committee of the DFL just picked 2 people, which is within the rules, but like I had really wanted to vote for the guy that I didn't vote for.
Right.
And I was just like really annoyed. And then also at the DFL convention, I really wanted to go to the after party because I heard the Teamsters had really good meatballs. And,
fair enough.
Teamsters just got bored at like 5 o'clock and they're like, we're going to just go eat the meatballs and then come back. And nobody told me. So I was very mad about that.
Right.
But yeah, it's just, I think that like, it's really inside baseball, but it's like important baseball to see.
Right.
Because then you understand.
Right. It is quite a dorkdom.
Yeah.
Because it's inside baseball, but it's so messy.
Yeah.
That, I see why the Bernie Sanders people want to burn it down
Yeah.
and start over. But it's also a country full of 318 million people, not a country full of 25 million people.
Yeah, and
You know, and I'm sure it was a lot simpler in the 50s when there were 150 million people or whatever, right? And it was even easier in the 1850s when there was 100 million.
And there are
people.
aspects of that need to be burnt down. Like, it's not necessarily welcoming, and it's a lot of like bullshit that happens. And we didn't get to this, but my favorite thing about the national convention is the roll call, which is where every state stands up and announces how many like votes or how many delegates each candidate gets.
Yeah.
Because they announce this, but they also say a state fact or like annoying, like random state facts. So they're like, Minnesota, home of 10,000 lakes. We have the big, like just facts and
Just
every
weird
single
random
state.
The state bird of
Yeah.
of Illinois is the cardinal.
And then they also like dress up like it's like con for like political people. So they'll be like wearing like really like top hats. It's like, and like Louisiana's, look it up on YouTube, was awesome.
Yeah.
The dumbest one was like Connecticut. They're like, Connecticut, home of the hamburger. And we're like, is that all you're going to give us?
Yeah.
We register like 8 votes, you know.
Really nothing about Hartford and the insurance
Just
industry?
like, it's just.
Okay, fair enough.
And it's funny. The funniest thing that happened with the whole roll call is Alabama gave their roll call, and then like Stephanie Rawlings Blake, who's the mayor of Baltimore.
Okay.
And she was running the meeting, and Alabama's like, we have this many votes for Clinton and this many for Sanders. And then she just looks, and then she's like, don't y'all have one more? And they somehow lost like a delegate. Like they don't know. They're like, well, we don't know what's going
we just
on.
have these three.
Yeah, Wyoming.
Alabama.
Yeah, Wyoming all wore Black Lives Matter shirts, which was surprising because we were hoping they would wear their logo. The Wyoming Democrats have the best logo. It's just like a smug bison that it's smirking. I'll show it to you in a second after we get out there.
Everyone Google Wyoming
Democrats
Democratic
logo.
Logo.
So we were hoping they were wearing those shirts, but then they wore Black Lives Matter shirt, and I'm like, even better. You're awesome.
Yeah, that is neat. Especially Wyoming.
Especially Wyoming.
What is happening with the 100,000 of you?
Yeah. So I've wanted to have a vote on who gets to say the facts, because in Minnesota, Amy Klobuchar somehow like gets in to like shout the fact every year.
Yeah.
And she's always yelling. She's like, Minnesota, home of, like, I was like, are you making a proclamation? Or, like, what are you doing?
Right.
But yeah, I watched the entire roll call, and it's just like a trivia buffet. Guam and like
Right.
Guam and like all the, you know, the islands and territories have the best costumes. They have their traditional costumes. The sweetest moment was when the overseas delegates registered their vote, because they let Bernie Sanders' brother, who lives in England, do
Yeah.
it. And so he stood up, and he was just like the most adorable. Like he was crying. He was like, I'm
Did he
proud.
look just like
to
Bernie?
Yeah. He's like, I'm proud to register votes
He's
for my
Elmer Fudd.
brother, like Bernie Sanders. And it was the most adorable thing ever. And yeah, so you should watch. It's on YouTube.
It's cool to watch the process, and it
Yeah.
yeah.
The one that like makes me tear up is the 2008 one, because typically the last state to go is the person who's not getting the nomination to like hand it over. So Vermont went last, and then Bernie Sanders like registered his state's votes and said like, I'd give the nomination to Hillary Clinton. And the greatest one was in 2008, when they're going through roll call and they say New York, and then they had to bring Clinton out onto the floor, and they have a pretty big delegation anyway. And she said, like, I move to suspend the roll call and like give the nomination to Barack Obama. And it was like this thing where like the crowd went like, yeah. And like, it was one of those things like you watch it and you're like,
goosebumpy.
you know, you see and you're like, oh,
Yeah.
But then like this year, like Sanders people were like, we're not going to be cool about this.
Right. It's
Yeah.
yeah, it's I understand their disappointment, and I understand their anger. It's not that.
Stick around. Keep that anger. Be angry for midterms. Be angry in your local races.
Yeah.
Because this, like, North Carolina got to be a hot Democratic mess right now because of state stuff.
Right. And the country doesn't run itself, for fuck's sake. You have to get involved. And, I thank you, Brandi Brown, for getting involved. I guess so that I didn't have to this year. It's not enough. I gotta get off my ass.
And I don't do that much. Like, I think, like, the people, like, the activists and, like, the people who are actually, like, I have a couple
they
friends, like real
spend their
party,
money. Yeah.
the union organizers,
Pay
like,
for hotel rooms.
yeah, those people do the work. I just went and observed the process. I did the minimum.
Right.
But there are people doing good work.
It's kind of amazing, the minimum.
Yeah.
And it sounds like a
Yeah.
lot.
There's a place for everyone. Like, just go and do, like, the local stuff will, like, protect us in the end. So just get involved. Yeah.
I love that. It's the Brandi with an I on Twitter, houseofprocrastination.com and statefaircliches.wordpress.com. And you only update it during the state fair.
Yeah, I haven't updated in a few years, but it's a limited
It's
run
still
thing.
fun.
And
Still fun, you guys. Get
everything
out
at the state fair is a cliche. So pretty much.
and go see Brandi Brown do stand-up comedy and follow her on Twitter. And thank you so much for doing the
thanks
show.
for having me.
And Rangers, you know the rules out there. Take care of each other.
My hat, my hat, my hat. They're dancing around my hat. My hat, my hat, my hat. Well, what do you think of that? If it looks like a Mexican hat dance and it sounds like a Mexican hat dance, it's most likely a Mexican hat dance. So take off your hat and let's dance.
Yay! Oh my God. Why don't we just call that as the end of the show?